All right, so this is the question. Should you consider freelancing in 2024? Is it going to be a good option for you? What are the trends within the industry? And what are some things you should consider? Now, my goal in this video is to share my experience as a freelancer and also to share my 10 plus years experience as a programmer and coder. And I do this roughly about every year because the dynamics change, the industry changes, and it seems like the world changes every single year. So it's important for us to be updated in terms of what do the current conditions and trends tell us about the state of freelancing. And with the year we've had with artificial intelligence, with ChatGPT, with Bard, with Midjourney, with Stable Diffusion, with Claude AI, and all of this AI technology that's really dominating the media cycle and all of our attention, I think this question is very important to answer. What I also want to do is share some pros and cons of freelancing, because sometimes you're going to see and hear people say about you can freelance from the beach while you're sipping your margaritas and do business like it's money falling out of the trees. And then you hear the flip side about the doom and gloom that freelancing is a very lonely way to make a living. And sometimes those checks don't come in. And I've experienced a lot of both. I've experienced the months where it seems like the checks were just piling up. Clients were knocking on my door. Really, they were just filling up my contact form on my website. And it seemed like everything was smooth sailing. But then I experienced those months where it seemed like nobody wanted to do business. Nobody emailed me, nobody called, nobody was knocking on my door. So that's my experience. And now let me share what I think in terms of the future of freelancing, especially going into 2024 and what all the AI technology that's been introduced over the past year, what it means for you. Hi, I'm Joel. I'm the creator of this channel and pixumweb.com. If this is your first time here, make sure to subscribe and join the community. My goal is to help you prepare for what comes next. All right, so one of the first things we have to do is reflect. What has happened over the past 12 months? What's taken place over the past couple of years? And what are the interests of people looking for work? Well, we know that over the past 3 and 4 years, there's been a big movement of people wanting to work remotely. And I've been working from home before working from home was a really big thing. But now it seems like everybody wants to be a remote worker, or at least have a hybrid workflow. Some days in the office and some days working from home. But freelancing is different, and freelancing in general means you're working for yourself. You don't have a boss. You don't have anybody to answer to but yourself. So with that, there's a lot of things you have to consider. First of all, if you're just getting into the industry, if you're thinking about becoming a freelancer, if you're thinking about changing careers, you have to be able to answer a few questions. One of them is, do you have a savings account? And how many months of bills do you have saved up? The reason why I asked that question is because when you're first starting off in freelancing, it could be a while before you start getting some clients. So you want to have a cushion in your savings account in order to weather those first few months. And then you have to ask yourself the question, are the skills that you have in high demand? And if they are, how good are you at them? Because you're going to have to find a way to separate yourself from the pack. And that brings up the other point. How good are you at marketing yourself? Now, this is very important because the reality is you could be the absolute best at whatever it is you do, whether you're a programmer, a coder, a developer, software engineer, digital artist, content creator, writer, graphic designer, SEO consultant, or social media marketer. Well, that last one or the two last ones are really important no matter what you're doing. Because if you don't have a way to get your skill set out to the masses, then even if you're the best, it's going to be hard to generate business. And while search engine optimization and social media marketing are very big nowadays, one thing I tell people is never forget about the fact that you could be like an old school door-to-door salesperson. Especially as a freelancer, this is one area that you could really dominate. You can go from business to business and let them know what exactly it is that you do. You could join a chamber of commerce, you could join a business organization, start networking locally in order to be able to have those contacts, and develop a word-of-mouth type of campaign. That means you're going to have to be comfortable talking with people, engaging with people, networking with people. And I think that's what's going to really make it a good opportunity for people to succeed as a freelancer. Because while the rest of the world is trying to market themselves online, find me on Instagram, find me on TikTok, find me on YouTube, find me on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. There's a lot of noise out there, but the person that could actually make a connection physically with somebody else, a local business, they're going to have a higher success rate. So we know that a lot of people want to be remote workers. We know that a lot of people want to be hybrid workers. And that leads often into becoming a freelancer. So when you start looking at the stats today, there are about 75 million people who are freelancers in the United States. And that number is growing. It's projected that within the next 10 years, over 50% of workers will be freelancers. And it makes sense because as a freelancer, you have flexibility with your time. You have control of your time. You could work when you want to. I mean, obviously you have to really work hard, right? You're not going to work 5 hours a week and think you're going to make a fortune. Maybe after you've established yourself, maybe you've created a couple of projects or a couple of types of products that you can sell online. And yeah, that way you can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 without actually having to physically work. But that's going into the passive income part of it. And that's an important part, but it's not how freelancers start off. Another thing that attracts people to freelancing is the ability to work on diverse types of projects. You know, it can kind of get monotonous or tedious when you're working on the same type of project. If you're developing this type of website or if you're always doing this type of advertising project for a company, it can get boring. So having the ability to work on different types of projects is something that a lot of people find attractive. And then there's the potential for really unlimited earnings. I mean, if you're working in a 9-to-5 job, you're getting a salary for the most part. But if you're working for yourself as a freelancer and you have a healthy pipeline of clients, a good word of mouth campaign helping to push your services and offerings, and a strong online presence, it's not unreasonable to think that you can make a significant amount more than if you were working for somebody else. But always remember the flip side's also true. It's possible for you to make no money at all. And you have to account for that. And that's one of the biggest cons of freelancing, the inconsistent income. Like I said, I've experienced it where there's been times where money was just coming right in. Clients were plentiful, and I felt on top of the world. But I've also experienced those times where nobody was reaching out. And then I really had to do a soul search and figure out, what am I doing? And then you also have to think about the fact that as a freelancer, as a self-employed person, you're in charge of your own health benefits. You're in charge of your own 401k. What happens when you get sick? Do you get sick time? Do you get paid for that time? When you work in a company, you have sick days. When you work for yourself, you got to figure that out. And then the next thing you have to worry about is self-management. This is something you have to consider big time because it's so easy to get distracted. Social media is willing and ready to eat up all of your time. Netflix, Hulu, Prime, Disney Plus, HBO Max, they're all vying for your attention. And then the amount of emails you get every day looking to eat away 1 minute here, 1 minute there, that's something you have to contend with. And then everybody's different. Some people have a family that they have at home. And obviously your family wants to spend time with you. And if you're fortunate enough to have a good amount of friends, what are you going to do there as well? So being able to manage your time is something you really have to consider when being a freelancer. I mean, you hear about Elon Musk working 80 or 90 hours a week, bringing a pillow to work and sleeping on the floor. And most people are exhausted after just 40 hours of working per week. But there's a difference. He's worth about $200 and something billion, and the rest of us are not. Now, does that mean what he's doing is correct or right? Well, that's a personal choice. That's a personal decision. You have to figure out what makes sense for you. You got to think about the short term, but you also have to think about the long term and the investments you make in people, in relationships, and where you see yourself 5 years and 10 years from now. Now, what about artificial intelligence, AI, and all the different tools that we've seen pop up over the past year? With all this coming around, does that mean that we no longer need freelancers because a business can just spin up an AI, give it a few prompts, and then boom, the project is done? Well, of course, for the very low-hanging fruit, that's a possibility. But the second you have a little bit more complexity built into the project, you're going to have a person involved in the process. And if you're a freelancer, you really have to balance out the time that you spend learning how to use these tools and marketing your services and completing projects. But I honestly think that with artificial intelligence, it really empowers the freelancer significantly more than the business person that may not have a full understanding or full grasp of everything that goes into a project. And that's important because I say it all the time. You don't always know what you don't know. And when a business has to function, when they have to focus on how to conduct their business, they don't necessarily want to learn how to create a website or how to create a graphic art or learn all the ins and outs of search engine optimization or social media marketing. There's a difference of working on your business and in your business. When you're doing it all yourself, you're working in your business and you're limited on your time. When you're working on your business, then you have a little bit more longevity. You're able to think and look at things at a bird's eye view, and that can help you significantly down the road. So what I recommend people do is obviously look to see if they have the financial capability to get into freelancing, if that's something they want to do. Do you have a couple of months saved up? Do you have the skill set? Do you have the drive to market yourself? Are you able to get involved in local networking events? Are you good at time management? If you answered yes to those questions, then freelancing can be very profitable for you. I mean, at the end of the day, people are still going online. People still go to websites. People still download applications. People still require somebody who is expert within their field. And looking at the projections, with 75 million freelancers in the US alone today, and that number going up significantly over the years to come, that goes to show you that this is really an industry worth getting into. Again, you have to always look at the pros and cons. Don't only think that you're gonna succeed on day one, because that's not really realistic. But also don't scare yourself to believe that you can never make it. Basically, you have to develop a business plan, you have to develop a plan of action, and you ultimately have to be disciplined in how you approach your day-to-day. Maybe you don't want to work 90 hours a week, and that's fine. But also maybe you don't want to work on somebody else's dream. Instead, you prefer to work on your dream and have the flexibility to work from wherever you want. And that's why I think freelancing is an ideal way to earn a living, as long as you realize that proper prior planning prevents poor performance. Meaning you have to go into it with a real plan of action, and you have to be focused and disciplined. And if that's you, then freelancing is a great opportunity. If you're not able to put together a good plan and see it through, if you can't discipline yourself, organize yourself, structure yourself in a way to get work done, even if you're the most highly skilled person out there, then freelancing may not be for you. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification icon. If you have any thoughts, comments, or suggestions, leave them down below. And as always, thanks for watching and happy coding.